Welcome to another edition of High School Lowdown. I'm Steve Wilson, and with me as always is Ernest Boker and Jeff Berg. Well, PCA will be traveling to Bogalusa to take on Ben's Ford, and I think Coach Wade Patrick described it best. PCA was definitely in what he termed a fog last week.
Well, he wanted them to get pushed a little bit, and whether it was through their own making or through Deer Creek pushing them a little bit, they certainly got the test that they wanted. Didn't play very well. Found a way to win in double overtime, 20-14, even though they had 23 yards of offense at halftime.
I'm talking to Coach Patrick about Ben's Ford. They're going to be a lot less like Union Christian. It sounds like they're going to be a little more like Deer Creek, even though they're 0-2 and they're now 1-21, and they're 3 years back in 11-man.
Well, Ben's Ford's a very young team coming off, played 8-man a couple of years ago. Should be an easy win for PCA on paper, but you never know how those things can go. You take them too lightly and things can blow up in your face. So they really need to come out and at least put forth the effort, a better effort than they had the first 2 weeks when there were a lot of mistakes, even though they're 2-0 right now.
And more importantly, it is their district opener.
That's
this
correct.
game counts towards them going to the playoffs.
Correct. And there's a couple of good teams in their district, Heidelberg, Newton Academy still to come. So you can't take these early ones lightly. You screw up and all of a sudden you're digging yourself out of a hole against a better team, and you really need it's a tougher road to hoe there.
Well, Warren Central will be taking on Hattiesburg. It'll be their first road trip of the season. How do you see this one shaking out, Jeff?
It was a good game 2 years ago, like I said, and then last year, Warren Central beat Hattiesburg 20-18, a real close competitive ball game. They pulled out at the end. The game you did the game 2 years ago with them. It was a competitive game. Warren Central dropped out to a 14-0 lead, and then Hattiesburg came back. I don't know what does Hattiesburg have back this year from what you've seen.
Well, from talking with Coach Morgan, the big thing with them is going to be all the formations they're going to throw at Warren Central. He said that when he was going over film and trying to catalog all the different formations, he said he was 4 pages into it and he wasn't even deep into the second quarter. But they're going to have a 2-quarterback system. They got a couple of wide receivers who can really go, so he's kind of concerned about that.
How was Josh's mindset toward what his team did? That was such a grueling loss they had last week. I was at the game. It reminded me of a game I did 15 years ago at Greenville St. Joe, which you were up to, but this was old school. But, it was a double overtime game, and that's such a draining type of experience. What do you say about that?
Well, his whole thought was we had several plays that we let get away, and he also felt that they didn't finish. They didn't close them out. They had them on the ropes, and they didn't apply the knockout blow.
One of the things I really liked about what Warren Central did last week was they found Corey Davis deep. They hit a deep post pattern with Chase Ladd, 49-yard touchdown pass. Then they went on a deep fly pattern for 61 yards, and they, again, ran the ball pretty well again.
Could it take on new division rival Hines AHS? How do you see that one shaking out?
This is a really pivotal game for both teams, even though it's the first region game. Hines is coming off a big win, first time they've won in a year, and they have a tough schedule after this one. They play Mount Olive, Bogachita, Dexter in September. So this is a game that they need to win to really kind of set themselves up right. And for St. Al, it's the start of they get those tougher teams in October. So this is the start of a tough stretch, of an easier stretch, I should say, in September, where they can kind of set themselves up for the playoffs and not have to run through that murderer's row in October.
Well, against their game against St. Joe, I noticed they really don't have an offensive identity. First play from scrimmage, Carlisle Kessler, he fumbles the snap, and it was pretty much downhill from there. They're not able to run the ball with any authority. Passing game, there are a lot of third down and long situations. As you and I both know from covering this sport, that's not a place you want to be.
No, St. Al's struggling right now. They don't have a lot of warm bodies out there. They've only got about 25, 26 people, probably 22 or 23 that are fully healthy. And it's not going to get easier against Hines. Hines has been 2A. They beat a 4A team last week, gave another 4A team Raymond all they wanted in the first week. So this is not the best time for this might not be the best matchup for St. Al right now.
Well, Vicksburg will be traveling to Richwood over in the Monroe area, and last year things didn't go too well for the Gators.
Like I said, You did the game last year. What do you remember of it? Because it was 34-7, but it was close at the half, wasn't it?
It was close at the half, but it seemed like Richwood was kind of in an experimental mode with their play calling. They were throwing the ball all around. They had a halfback pass. And finally, I had talked to the coach at the half, and he said that we're going to throw the playbook out, and we're just going to go basic. And they just basically ran down Vicksburg's throat, and Vicksburg was unable to stop it.
And that's one thing talking with Coach Alonzo Stevens this week is they had an open date after the Brandon loss, and they went back to fundamentals. They worked a lot on their blocking and tackling. We were going to see if that's going to transfer into a much improved effort, on Friday night. The other big thing that they got both linebackers. They held two linebackers out.
Eli and Shaquan.
Yeah, Eli Brown and Shaquan James. Both of them will start Friday night. He said both of Eli's ready to go. They've also tweaked their line a little bit. They've worked a lot on J.J. Munger, a guard, a first-time guard in there, plus a first-time center and Ross. And they're going to try to get those two kids ready to play.
Thanks for tuning in to another edition of High School Lowdown. Be sure to read our sports section and check us out at vicksburgpost.com.